Good morning, good afternoon, and good night wherever you may be. Welcome to another edition of the Backyard Sports Talk. My name is Reid Jaco, and
I'm Danny Jaco. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. We have some big news to get to. We have some big WWE news. The stage is almost set for Money in the Bank this upcoming weekend. We have some big MLB news, and we have some slow NFL news, as well as some good USFL news to the upcoming playoff schedule and the playoff updates that might come up there. So we'll go ahead and get started with our WWE news. The big news of the last week is R-Truth and Carlito have been released. What is your initial reaction to this?
Well, both surprises me. In fact, if you'd a few months ago, it probably wouldn't surprise me as much about R-Truth because I wasn't seeing him much. But he kind of had a rise. He was showed up at the pay-per-view, then he was on the main event. Carlito was one that I didn't think I thought he would be around longer than he has been, but he didn't come back for very long. It doesn't surprise me that Carlito was cut. I just thought he would be around a little longer than he was.
To me, Carlito was that wild card to where, he could stay or go, take it or leave it. But R-Truth, he's, been there forever. He is creeping up into, he is in his 50s. However, he did have a main event here a couple of weeks ago at the Saturday night main event, and I thought he looked pretty good.
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused by that. Like I said, prior to all this, I hadn't saw him. Had you saw him in a while?
Not until he decided to call out John Cena.
Right. Prior to that, it wouldn't have surprised me as much to have saw him got cut. But after he's been, in the main event here on Saturday night, main event, and all, I thought it just surprised me. It really is. I didn't see it coming.
I didn't either. I will say that I did not see that coming. And like I said, Carlito was another one that, it was a wild card. You could take it or leave it, but I didn't see either one of these coming, and I hope that this is not a trend where we see some of these long-time superstars be released.
Well, usually, always after WrestleMania, you'll see some releases. I would have thought they would have been over with by now. Usually, Vince always did them pretty quick after. I don't know. I hope there's no more. See how many have we had?
Well,
names.
We can go back a few weeks ago. We had Braun Strowman.
That's one that surprised me, really.
Let me go back a little bit on our page here. I should be able to name them all.
But Braun Strowman, probably his salary was hurting him too. What he was making.
So, Dakota Kai, Shayna Baszler, Braun Strowman.
Shayna Baszler surprised me some.
Caden Carter, Katina Chance, Cora Jade, Gigi Dolan, Eddie Thorpe, and Jakara Jackson were all released after WrestleMania.
Okay. It just surprised me that R-Truth and Carlito was obviously out past his prime. Carlito was a pretty big player at one time. He was past his prime. But I just thought he would get a little bit long. How long has he been here? 90 days?
Who, Carlito?
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd been here a while.
Had he? I didn't think it'd been that long.
Yeah, he'd been here a while.
Well, I'm happy for him. He got to come in and make some money. He'll make a little bit of money.
Right. Now, this just, another thing that revolves from this. What are they going to continue to do with the Judgment Day? JD did come back. Then we did kind of have a little bit of scuff with the Judgment Day a couple of weeks ago. So, do we see this be like the end of the Judgment Day?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know what the answer to that is. I do want to go back on something. JR used to say this, and we want to wish Jim Ross, good news, or in his prayers and everything. Keep him in our prayers for what he's going through.
Absolutely.
Jim Ross is somebody I really respect. I like Jim a lot. I can't imagine I couldn't imagine all those years in WWE without WWF and WWE without Jim Ross being at the voice of wrestling. But anyway, I've heard Jim Ross say this many times. When, at least under Vince, when you got cut, he always said that Vince let you leave with some pretty good walking money. So hopefully Carlito and R-Truth did leave with, some. He said you'd always leave with plenty of jingle, a little bit of jingle in your pocket. Vince would make sure you did. So
hopefully that's the same for R-Truth and Carlito. We wish both of them the best, as well as JR. JR did have surgery, I believe it was last week. Before we get in on to the rest of the wrestling WWE news that we have here, after the news broke about JR's surgery, one of your favorite wrestlers of all time, Ric Flair, come out with a tweet on X, formerly known as Twitter, saying that Jim Ross always trying to get, this is paraphrasing, always trying to get attention, something along those lines. I took it as, kind of a gig of a joke, but there was a lot of people in the community, I believe, including yourself, that didn't take it as a joke.
If Jim Ross had torn his knee and was getting it fixed, or something like that, I could have understood. But with cancer, I just don't feel like that was the time to say something like that. I just feel like it wasn't right. I've always been a huge fan of Ric Flair, but Ric Flair is really, with his age, he's not the same guy that he once was. And, I think there's no secret here. I think it's a lot to do probably with all the alcohol he's consumed through the years. Still won't take it away from one of the greatest performers, wrestlers of all time. No question. One of the greatest talkers at the microphone and everything. But, I don't approve of things he's doing right now.
Kind of to piggyback off that, being nearly 80 years old.
Right.
How many concussions has Ric Flair endured in his career?
That I don't know. That's a good question. He never did really get hurt much, but we don't know what he wrestled through. Back then they maybe didn't check as much.
Right. So, and I've heard of things, of having concussions and it not appearing until you're late.
Older, right.
You're really old, and that could be a potential.
And he's had a lot of health issues.
He has. He's had to go under a couple of times as well.
Right.
So, and I'm not taking anything away from Ric Flair. Ric Flair is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, and I would probably put him on my Mount Rushmore.
Absolutely, he's probably first on my Mount Rushmore. Shame there's not 5 on Rushmore.
Right. See, there's 4 on Rushmore, right?
Mm-hmm.
See, my Rushmore is Flair, The Undertaker, Macho Man, and I gotta put in a woman in there, and I gotta go Trish.
Yeah, I think
and it's difficult. So don't get me wrong. There's been a ton of good ones. I liked Hulk. I liked. There's tons I could put on there. If I could have 1,000 heads on my Rushmore.
Yeah, I could too. I think that I would have to go, and I think my Mount Rushmore maybe has changed through the years a little bit, but right now it would still be Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, just for what Hulk did in the 80s and 90s. Stone Cold. And probably my fourth one, and here's, I'll say this, my fourth one is probably Bret Hart. But I got to give, I know there's not 5, but I do got to give an honorable mention The Undertaker.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's my 4. That's my 4, Mount Rushmore.
Right.
I wish we had 5 on Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. Well, now, won't you just climb up there and carve another
I'll
head?
carve The Undertaker right there.
There you go. Won't you just carve the Undertaker head on Mount Rushmore? Yeah.
I mean, The Undertaker accomplished a lot for the fact the longevity that he had.
Oh, shoot, yes. And I mean, the streak. The streak is something that is something the Undertaker will always be known for. If you mention the Undertaker around anybody, you ask them what they know about the Undertaker. I would say about 85% to 90% of them are going to say the streak.
Right. I would rather somebody ask me my favorite top 10 wrestlers is my favorite Mount Rushmore, because I mean, I really,
Right.
I mean, Undertaker, as I said, with 5, I think you'd have to have Shawn Michaels next in
Yes.
there.
Okay, so now there's not. Comes to the Mount Rushmore and the favorite, like say your top 10 favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, those are two different.
True, it is
list, because I can have a top favorite wrestler that is not even close to a Mount Rushmore.
Right.
Like Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, those would be in my top 10. Those have nowhere near a Mount Rushmore.
No, and I'm basing it on what accomplishments and what they meant to me as a young person.
Right.
After Shawn Michaels would definitely be Sting.
Mm-hmm.
Although he wasn't as good a performer, I still got to have Luger in there, I think, even though he maybe wasn't as good a performer. But he was there during when I was a very time when I was really into it. There's others in there that I got to think about. Vader's one of the best big men.
Okay, then we'll do this next week. You think about it. I'll think about it. We'll come together. We will not show each other our list.
Okay.
We will come up with a 10 of who you think the top 10 wrestlers in history.
Okay.
Not favorite, but top 10.
Who you think with their accomplishments and everything.
Who with accomplishments and like pivotal movements, like, okay, for example, Stone Cold and The Rock during the Attitude Era.
Yeah, and then you look about how do you not have Randy Orton on that list?
Absolutely.
How do you not have? I mean, honestly, how do you not have John Cena? And truthfully, how do you not have Triple H on that too?
Or Roman Reigns.
Roman Reigns.
Honestly,
exactly.
I mean, what he held the title for 4 years?
Yes.
And I'll be honest with you. I mean, I hated it because you tried so hard, and I just kept budging. But I wish I was a big of a wrestling fan then as I am now, because I think that, I mean, and at the end, I didn't really care for it then, but now that the more I appreciate wrestling, I think I would have appreciated Roman's time as champion more now than I did then, if that makes sense.
What Roman did was big. I mean, that was big.
I mean, he technically held 2 titles at once, correct?
Yes. And here's the thing. You're not going to hold that title that long unless you're drawing. They're not going to just let you wear that unless you're drawing. He become the face of the company. He was drawing, or they wouldn't have left it on him 4 years.
Right. No, he really was a pivotal movement in a lot of things. And, you know, I think you'd mentioned earlier before we started recording that, you know, you saw somewhere that he might not be safe in cuts.
Right.
I mean, he carried you for 4 years.
Yes.
He's got to be safe.
Yes, he's got to be. I can say this. That was one thing.
Randy, Seth, KO, those guys carried you all through COVID. I mean, those guys have to be safe.
That was the one thing about Vince. Vince was pretty loyal to somebody like Stone Cold or Roman or somebody like that. He would have never cut him, and maybe TKO won't either.
Well, and right now, I mean, one person gets cut. I just saw today where Gunther might get cut. I'm like,
that would be full.
There's no way that Gunther's going to get cut.
Who's going to be your superstars?
And I'm like, okay, so I think they're just pulling names out of their rear end to try to get views. Because we could sit here and say right now that one of the top WWE, brand new superstars that could get cut, and we could post a soundbite on TikTok, and it could get blown out of proportion, and we could probably get 1,000 views on it, but it doesn't mean it's true.
But I mean, here's the thing, and I don't want you to take it that I don't like him, but do you really think Jey Uso will be champion past SummerSlam? I don't think so.
So
I haven't heard on how he's doing as far as drawing. I mean,
now,
if he starts going the other way, he won't be around long.
I don't know so much if it's him or if it's the Yeet. The Yeet is selling because everybody's buying the four letters, one word shirts.
Yeah.
The Yeet glasses, those are selling out the rear end.
Then he's probably doing pretty good if he's doing that. Because the merchandising is big. Yes. They got to sell merchandise, and they got to draw. Those are the big things that keeps them there.
Absolutely. And I think that you will see him probably go until what's the big pay-per-view at the end of the year? Survivor Series.
Yeah. In November.
I think he'll probably go until about Survivor Series.
I think so.
That's just my speculation.
I don't have a problem with that. I'm just thinking he won't.
I just think, because here's my thing, they're going to build him and Gunther up one last time. This is just my speculation. And then we're going to get to it. But I think that Mr. Seth Rollins will win Money in the Bank.
Could be.
And he will cash in at Survivor Series.
I did read a few days ago that Money in the Bank is not a pay-per-view or not a theory or a concept that Hunter's very popular with.
I saw that the other day. They said it because he was never in one or never held a briefcase, so he really don't like it. And I mean, I guess you can go back in history. I mean, he never did. But I don't know how truth is if you don't really like the concept, if there's any truth to that at all.
But that's pretty popular. I don't think that'll go away.
No, I don't think it'll go away. But we'll see. So
well, they never thought King of the Ring would go away either, and it did.
Yeah, but no, the Money in the Banks is so popular though. Like, for example, that's how Liv Morgan got champion. That's how so many wrestlers have gotten that belt.
Right.
And that's how they've been able to fit it into the storyline.
So who was it got it last year that came? Was it Logan Paul that won that last year? Or 2 years ago when Brock, it was 2 years ago, wasn't he, come down there?
I think so.
And Brock took care of him pretty fast. There's another guy, I know we're getting
well, another one. Tiffany Stratton won it last year, and she's champion now.
Talking about our top wrestlers, I mean, you got to give some consideration to Brock Lesnar for the things he's done.
Oh, absolutely. So, we're going to pause on that thought. We're going to move on.
I apologize for getting carried away, but it's always interesting to talk about that. We'll have to do that on the show.
Absolutely. So, like I said, I'll make my list, you make your list. We won't show each other until we come on the show and we actually talk about it.
That sounds fine.
So the Money in the Banks matches are set. The men's side is Solo Sikoa versus LA Knight versus Seth Rollins versus Andrade versus my favorite luchador of all time, El Grande Americano.
I don't know much about him.
El Grande Americano. Everybody thinks it's Chad Gable.
Really?
So I guess you're gonna have to go back and actually look at some actual video and everything. But
what do you think?
I mean, they both look alike. Just El Grande Americano wears a mask, and Chad Gable don't. But everybody says that they're the same person, but we'll see. But my opinion and my prediction is that Seth Rollins will win the briefcase here. Unless they decide to go solo Sikoa, but I just how they've been building up Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman, it just seems makes so much more sense to go with Seth Rollins.
That's true.
Now on the women's side, I'll be completely honest with you, I have absolutely no idea. Because on the women's side, it is Alexa Bliss versus Roxanne Perez versus Rhea Ripley versus Julia versus Naomi versus Stephanie Valkyr, who made her Raw debut this past Monday. And she beat up on my girl Liv in a triple threat to get qualified for the Money in the Bank. However, she did look very good in her first Raw. However, I have no idea who would win, who could win the briefcase. My gut is telling me Roxanne Perez or Stephanie Valkyr, but how she is sold, it could be Rhea Ripley and it could be Naomi. I'll be completely honest with you, I have no idea. And I mean, does this give Alexa Bliss a chance to return to the spotlight?
Charlotte's not in it this year.
Negative.
Neither's Becky. Becky has a match.
But again, I have no idea. So, there's the list. I don't know what's going to happen. It could go either way. So it's going to be a surprise for me, honestly, because I have no prediction. I mean, I'll eventually make a prediction.
I feel like it's Rhea Ripley,
but I don't know.
I feel like that Rhea Ripley may have it, but anyway, is Punk in it?
No. You got it up there.
Yeah, I see now.
No, he is not in it. He should have a match because he didn't have a match in the last pay-per-view. So he should have a match. Right now, there's only 4 matches that is listed in the.
How would that be a solo won it and wanted a match with his brother?
Well, I mean,
he's a heel, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean they had their little disagreement last week on.
So that's one
on
that
SmackDown. I mean,
that would be really a good push for Solo.
It would be, but I just don't want them to get wrapped up in that bloodline crap again.
The bloodline. I like the bloodline, but I think it's time to move on from it.
They ran it in the ground.
Yeah, well, it was selling. You know what I'm saying? It was selling.
It was, but I'm ready for. I was ready for something new. And the next one at the end of SmackDown on Friday, when Cody Rhodes brought out Jey Uso, and then John Cena and Logan Paul come out. We'd already knew this match was going to happen because of Raw. They kind of had a little scuff a little bit, and Cody was holding up John Cena's title in front of him. And, that in a way that kind of gave me chills, like, Cody could be the one to dethrone Cena again. Or be the one to dethrone Cena.
I think there's a chance of that, too. Him or Punk.
I think it's going to be Cody Rhodes going to dethrone Cena at SummerSlam.
And it could be. And I have not a problem. I don't have a problem with that.
Because because my personal opinion, if he dethrones him at SummerSlam, he gives him time to turn face again and come back a loving hero.
Yeah, he'll turn, I think, back before he, I think, anyway. But we'll find out.
Definitely interesting. In the last match of the night, I don't know if this will be the main of the actual main event will be the men's Money in the Bank, but the big match of the night will be a title match. Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch. The stipulation in this match that if Becky loses, she does not get to challenge Valkyria as long as she holds the IC belt.
Really?
Yes. As long as she holds the IC belt, she does not get to challenge her. She said that was it.
Well, that's interesting.
But if sometime later on Valkyria loses the belt, Becky can challenge whoever is holding the belt.
Gotcha.
So I thought that was an interesting stipulation.
Yeah, it is.
There. So quickly moving forward here, we have some MLB news. Lance McCullers Jr. notches his first win in nearly 3 years. He was out due to several injuries. And the last time he had pitched until this year was in 2022. He come back earlier this year, and he got his first win over the weekend. He looking phenomenal, and he has been struggling at times. And listen to this. So earlier in the year, he actually had death threats made against him.
Why?
I guess because the way he pitched, and he ended up having to hire a security team.
I hope the team paid for that.
I don't know if the team paid for that or not, but
because he wasn't pitching good, he got
apparently, and he was kind of scared for his life.
That's
so
very childish.
It was very childish, and the team did come out with a statement saying that was very unprofessional, and they shouldn't, nobody should do that, and this, that, and the other. I mean, I completely agree with them. No matter how bad a player is playing, you should not be threatening their lives, their family lives, or anything like that.
It's at the end of the day, it's still a game. Congratulations to McCullers on getting that win. I know that was big. That kind of broke the ice for him. So,
absolutely. So PCA, Pete Crow Armstrong of the Chicago Cubs makes history, becoming the 4th fastest player to reach 15 home runs and 20 stolen bases. He did it in 60 games in 2025. The only 3 players above him are Eric Davis, who did it in 40 games in 1987, Ken Williams in 54 games in 1922, and Bobby Bonds in 59 games in 1973.
Well, congratulations to him.
Some bad news here. Arizona Diamondbacks pitcher Corbin Burns has been placed on the 15-day IL after being pulled from Sunday's game against the Nationals due to right elbow discomfort. So anytime you see that, you know that could potentially mean Tommy John. So the way I understand it, they're going to give him the week off, allow some inflammation to go down, and try to run some tests early next week and see what the verdict is and see whether he will be having Tommy John or if he just needs to take a couple of weeks off. But I'll be completely honest with you. If the Diamondbacks lose him, I think they should sell and sell fast. Anybody who has an expiring contract, trade them now. Because we're going to get to it here in a little. We're going to get to the records here in a little bit. but that West is a very tough division. Thus, and the entire wild card in the National League is going to be very tough.
Probably all come out of that division, won't it?
Potentially, I mean, depending on how St. Louis continues to do.
Right.
But if the Diamondbacks have anybody with an expiring contract, now is a good time to be like, okay, we got about a month and a half, nearly 2 months, probably right at 2 months until the trade deadline, about a month and a half until trades actually start, to be like, okay, let's sit down, let's figure out who we're going to keep, who we're not going to keep on payroll next year. Let's put some feelers out. Let's be like, okay, we're going to trade player X, player Y, and player Z. That is what I personally think is going to happen. But, teams are greedy.
No, that's true.
I don't know if that will happen, if they will prepare to sell as an outside piece now, or if they'll internally prepare to sell and potentially then sell at the deadline. But I think that's something they need to do.
He's Burns is pretty strong, right?
Yes, he just signed a big 6-year contract.
Well, I keep the man in our prayers that ain't what happened, because that's a lot to go through.
Oh, absolutely. So
about a 2-year deal, ain't it?
Well, since it's already June, so if you think about it, they're not going to run tests till early next week. So if it's truly the Tommy John, you're thinking he'll probably have surgery in 2 weeks from now.
I mean, they'll do this as quick as they can.
Yes. So then you're probably thinking August of 27, maybe 2028.
Maybe this is a story, question for another day, but it kind of interests me. What exactly happens when they need Tommy John? Is it a ligament issue or?
So the UCL is a ligament that basically holds your elbow bone together, and if it tears, you can't throw, and it's sharp pains. So they go into your leg, and will cut out some extra tissue, and basically drill holes into your elbow and your other bone up here, and basically sew it in like you're crocheting.
Really? At one time, I would have thought that would almost been career ending.
Well, it was until Tommy John.
Okay.
I mean,
it won't heal on its own, huh?
No, it won't, because it's permanently. And
wouldn't you say there's at least a pitcher a year that has to have that?
Just about.
I know you talked about it a lot, and I know. Well, what was the pitcher from the Cardinals that had that time? Had the beard.
Which one?
Mott. Didn't Jason Mott have it?
Yes, Jason Mott had it.
Yeah, he was kind of pitching good too by the time that happened to him. It always seems like it happens to, and I'm not laughing, but it always seems like it happens to somebody that is pitching pretty good.
Right.
Maybe that's the problem. Maybe they're pushing it too hard.
Potentially. For example, Shohei Ohtani has had it twice already. But there's players that has had it 2 to 3 times in their career.
I didn't realize you could have it more. I thought once they fixed it, maybe it didn't happen again.
No, I mean, you can have it as many times as you need it.
But some of them do come back as good as ever was, don't they?
Yes. I believe it was Johnny Venters who had it 4 times. 3 times in the major leagues and 1 time in high school.
So is Tommy John the doctor that invented this procedure?
Tommy John is the pitcher who pitched for the Dodgers, he thought his career was over with. And the doctor was Dr. Frank Joba. Just basically, it was an experimental surgery. And he was able to come back and have a pretty healthy career afterwards.
What year would that have been, roughly?
Well, we can look it up. I think it was in the 80s.
Well, like I said, but this is all stuff that's kind of interesting. I think others might find it interesting too.
Right. Because, I mean, there's not a lot of people that know a whole lot about it other than that's just a surgery that pitchers get. See here. Okay, no, it was earlier than I thought. So the procedure was devised in 1974 by the orthopedic surgeon Frank Jobe of a Los Angeles doctor physician who served as a special advisor to the team until his death in 2014. It is named after the first baseball player to undergo the surgery, the Major League pitcher Tommy John, who played in the Major League for 26 seasons.
Wow.
John's successful post-surgery and the relationship between the two men was subject on a 2013 30 for 30 documentary.
And that was what year?
The actual surgery?
Yeah.
1974.
Okay, a little earlier than what we first talked about. But anyway.
So the ulnar collateral ligament can be stretched, frayed, or torn through repetitive stretch of a throwing motion. The risk of injury to the UCL is believed to be extremely high, as the amount of stress through the structure approaches its ultimate tensile strength during a hard throw. The injury is associated with baseball, although it sometimes appears in other sports compared to athletes who play other sports. Baseball players are elevated risk to overuse injuries and injuries caused by early sports specializations among children and teenagers. The results of a 2002 study suggest the total number of pitches thrown is the greatest determination. The study examined the throwing volume, pitch type, and throwing mechanics of 426 pitchers aged 9 to 14 in 1 year, compared to pitchers who threw 200 or fewer pitches in a season for those who threw 200 to 400, 400 to 600, 601 to 800, and 800 to plus. Face an increased risk of 63%, 181%, 234%, and 161% respectively. The type of pitches thrown showed a smaller effect. Throwing a slider was associated with 86% increased chance of elbow injury, while throwing a curveball was associated with an increase in pain. There was only a weak correlation between throwing mechanics perceived as a bad and injury prone. Research into throwing injuries in young athletes has led to age-based recommendations for pitch limits. Pitchers may require a secondary procedure after recovering from a first surgery. From 1999 to 2015, 39 Major League pitchers had a revision second Tommy John surgery, with an average of about 5 years between the first and second surgeries. The need for a second UCL reconstruction in a Major League pitcher is an important factor in the duration of their contracts.
So, real quick, and we'll get off the subject. How long did Tommy John pitch after his surgery? Was he pitched 27 years, you said? So it would have been probably a pretty good while, wasn't it? So, it was, you said it was the first successful one, but it sounded like it was really pretty successful.
So he was able to pitch 14 more seasons after his initial surgery.
Never had to have it again?
No.
Is he still alive?
Oh, yeah. He is.
Is he involved in it?
He's 82.
You ever seen him interviewed or anything? Or
I think he stays kind of quiet now.
It's not like he was 27 years or 26 years. It was a long time in that league.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, we're talking about next I see Aaron Judge is batting close to 400.
Yeah, so I read an article with 7 big questions entering the month of June. So we're going to ask these questions and we are going to answer them. So it says the first one is, how long can Aaron Judge flirt with a 400 batting average?
Is he right at 400?
Right at 400. Right now, if it wasn't for Aaron Judge, I mean, there's a lot of that team right now that is just struggling.
Didn't Albert one year was about 396 for a while?
Yeah, he was close to that.
I think he finished that season about 335 or something like that. But he run up 396 or something like that for. I mean, I thought through June at least. Maybe I could be wrong about that. But that's. I mean, he's swinging that bat well, as they say. He's seeing the ball well, isn't he?
Right now, as of right now, he is batting 387.
That there's a lot of guys that wishes they were even close to that.
Oh, absolutely.
And we're talking a little bit about the Braves too. Will the Braves finally get going this month? What do you think about that?
I'll be honest with you. I would like to think they would, but they've got a lot of problems. And I don't think that they're. I mean, yes, they're getting healthy. They've gotten healthier, but they're right now they're sitting at 27-32 in a very tough division headed by the Mets and the Phillies, who are 38-32 and 37-23.
Can I add one question here verbally?
Sure.
Is the Cardinals the biggest surprise of the year?
I think the biggest surprise of the year.
There's always a surprise every year.
Yes. No. I think I'll be honest with you. I think the biggest surprise of the year. I mean, yes, that's a big surprise, but I'll be honest with you. Personally, my take is the biggest surprise to me is the Braves being under 500 in June.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, most of the people was predicting the Cardinals to be pretty, finish pretty low, wasn't they?
Yes.
4th, 5th place, something like that, I think. So they're getting it together, much better than everybody thought, and that's good.
Absolutely. I mean,
I've seen your demeanor about them change a lot here in the last 2-3 weeks.
I mean, if I don't have it pull up here, but I mean, looking at my wild card standing in my predictions part, I didn't have them even a wild card team.
Considered, did you?
No, like I had them finishing in dead last.
You got to at least associate them with the wild card now, don't you?
Absolutely. I mean, I still think the National League wild card is going to be a dogfight come August and September.
Unless the Cardinals do something, it may all come out of the West.
Well, I mean, it's going to be very interesting, and it could potentially all just come out of the West. And I mean, let's take a look at the wild card right now. So the National League wild card is, right now this is technically not how it would be because there's only 3 wild cards. The Giants and Cardinals are tied. It would be whoever has a better head-to-head record at the conclusion of the season. And I don't know who it is right offhand, but right now the Phillies are ahead by 4 games. Then after that is the Padres, then the Giants, and the Cardinals are right there. But then sneaking in right there, only 1 game back, is the Milwaukee Brewers. And then only 4 games out at 30-32. And yes, they're only 4 games out at 29-30 is the Diamondbacks. However, they just lost their ace. We don't know how long he's going to be out. So we don't know what position that's going to go in.
Well, I'm gonna play devil's advocate on you on that. I don't think it's, even if he has to have Tommy John surgery, I don't think it's the right to sell. I don't. I think it's way premature for that. I think they got to give it a run. I think they got to try to sign somebody, couple or whatever. They got to do something.
But here's the thing that I don't think they have the farm system to go out and buy. I don't think they're going to be buyers.
Well, they might just. Yeah, that's true. I don't know.
The only
That's the problem when you don't have depth.
Yes.
That's the problem when you don't have depth.
Absolutely. I mean, I can. We'll just take a look at their top 30 prospects, and I mean, just see. I mean, Jordan Lawler. You don't want to part with him. I mean, he's gonna be. He's 22 years old. He's gonna be part of your top staff, and then right next, your top next 5 guys are still in rookie ball.
Mm-hmm. Pitchers, they're pitchers, right? Are they pitchers or the mixture of everything?
Outfielders, an infielder, and a right-handed pitcher. So if you don't have anybody in your there's only one person in their top 5 that is in AAA, and that's your top prospect. You don't really want to trade him in a season where you don't have your ace.
What is he? A pitcher or is he a?
He's an infielder.
You may have to trade him though. I mean, I think I would rather do that, sell the team or sell out.
I'm thinking sell though, because I mean,
I just don't like that term. I mean, I know there's times it's almost necessary, but that's a pretty good baseball team though overall, ain't it?
Well, they've struggled a lot, and they're currently under 500. They're 28-31, seven and a half games back out of the West, and 5 games out of the wild card. But that wild card is jam packed.
Well, it's going to be really interesting, isn't it? I mean, it's going to make it very interesting. And it's been a while since we saw a division like that West, isn't
it? It really has.
If don't want to slow us down here, but I want to ask a question. Is this like the NFL? If 2 teams finish with the same record for the wild card, does it go back to their division record? Who's got the best division record? Or do they automatically do the tie game?
So used to it was a game 163, and then when they implemented the wild card series, they implemented the head-to-head record.
Like in NFL, if you finished 2 teams finished 11-6, I'm just going to say that in the NFC, to break the tie, that goes back to whoever has the best division record.
Right. So first, it's head-to-head record, but if they have the same head-to-head record, then it's division record. Then if somehow they have the best head-to-head record, then they do some other kind of formula.
I think another formula. Let's just say, I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, I'd just love to hear somebody say. I was thinking in the NFL, if let's just say you finished 11-6, and by slight chance that you both had the same division record, if those 2 teams is faced, I think if you beat that team, then you're the favorite. I thought. You understand what I'm saying?
Now say that again.
Okay, let's just say that my 2 teams from the NFC, different divisions, but NFC, finished 11-6, and by some chance they've both got the same division record, won the same amount of games, and lost the same. But if those teams had faced, say, Thanksgiving or something, if whichever one won that game, I think they get favored.
Like a head-to-head record?
Is that what a head-to-head record is?
Yes.
Okay, well then that's the way.
So,
but it goes back to the division first, I think, in
okay,
NFL.
so in MLB, it's head-to-head, then division, and then they use another formula. So, I mean,
and it's not been long ago that they did the tiebreaker, the 163.
No, they cut that out when they started the. I think the last year for that was 2021. Yeah, 2021, but they didn't need it. So the last actual tiebreaker game was 2019.
There was a tiebreaker
2018
game in the early 2000s that got rained out 2 times. I'll never forget that.
Oh wow! So listen to this. Here is what I've. So here's the current Diamondbacks injured list. Right now, Corbin Burns with an elbow. Eduardo Rodriguez, one of their starting pitchers, with a shoulder. Likely to return to the rotation this week. That is good news. They do have 3 pitchers on the 60-day IL. AJ Puck has stretched out his throwing program to 60 feet. That was May 19th. Jordan Montgomery, estimated return time is July 1st. The Diamondbacks placed Montgomery on the injured list Wednesday. This was in March 26th. And then Blake Walston. The Diamondbacks placed Walston on the 60-day injured list on Sunday. So this was going back to March. I mean, if you have trust in Eduardo Rodriguez and Jordan Montgomery, you can still successfully try to save your season, I think, by maybe going out and getting an arm.
That's what I would, and I'm kind of a Diamondback fan in a little bit of a way. I've always kind of liked them, and I'd like to see them do that. Other than this, when you sell it, might feel like you're throwing in the towel.
However, if you don't have confidence in those two guys, I think the first person you try to trade is Jordan Montgomery, coming right back off injury and trying to get him to a contender.
Is he the one with the injured shoulder?
No, the injured elbow. He now this says he's expected to return July 1st. Now, if he returns July 1st, don't know. Eduardo Rodriguez, I don't think they're going to be able to trade him because I think he's got contract still for another couple of years. Montgomery will be a free agent after next year.
While we're on baseball, I want to ask you this. I was thinking about this the other day. Removing the Dodgers from the scene, and not necessarily by record, which one of them teams do you think is the best team? Without looking at the record. Record don't always, well, it should mean the best team, but it don't always.
You mean in the West?
Yes. I'm intrigued by that division.
Padres.
I've wanted to see the Padres do something for a long time. But I'm really intrigued with that division right now.
We got some more questions here.
Go ahead.
Why don't you ask them?
Okay. Well, I think was the next one about will we get some clarity on the National League?
Yes.
I didn't skip one, did I?
No.
Okay, well, we get some clarity in the National League West and the AL East, which we're kind of already talking about the NL West anyway.
Yeah, so we've kind of talked a little bit about both. We talked a little bit about the Braves. I don't know about the Braves. The Nationals, they're still kind of that's another strange team.
The Nationals.
The Nationals, they're 28 and 31. I mean, the, I, I'll be honest. I don't know if we'll get any clarity on those two divisions this month because the East is going to be a 2-team dogfight, and the West is going to be at least a 3-team dogfight, and possibly a 4-team dogfight, depending on how the Diamondbacks play.
A lot of people don't like this when this is worded this way. I've heard this a lot, and a lot of people don't like it, but I kind of agree. I kind of understand the thought of it. Don't you think the Nationals is one of them teams that's probably a better team than the record's showing?
Absolutely.
A lot of people doesn't like you to say that. They don't like that term, but right. I kind of understand it. I believe it sometimes.
I definitely understand what you're meaning. They're definitely an intriguing team. I mean, they're not a Colorado.
I don't know in my lifetime I've ever saw a team that bad of a record in my lifetime. And I'm 58 years old.
They're definitely not a Colorado.
They may break a record.
Oh, they're breaking records every day.
And I feel bad for the fans there in Colorado.
Oh, I do too. But going back on the Nationals and the East, I mean, that division is is another intriguing division. So I don't think we'll get any true clarity on either division this month.
We've had some kind of unique situations in this somewhat of an early season so far. Still kind of a little bit early. It's just June. But, I mean, we got two, very unique divisions.
Absolutely.
And we got a team that, then I'm not laughing at them, that is probably going to set all kinds of records for the most losing team ever.
Oh,
probably
for sure.
Ever.
Absolutely, for sure, 100%.
And like I said, I feel really bad for their fans. Because the fan, if it ain't, we don't want to forget about this. Without fans, we don't have sports. So anyway, move on. Is am I saying his name wrong? Ohtani? Is that correct?
Ohtani.
Is Ohtani going to stay on a 60 run home run pace while getting ready to pitch?
No. Because
is that where he's at now on pace for?
Yes. I mean, he was 60-60 last year, 60 home runs and 60 stolen bases. I think because he had to have another Tommy John last year, and he's still. I mean, best two-way player in the game.
I'm sorry to say, is there ever a pitcher that's been on? Is there ever a pitcher that's had a 60-run home run?
No. And I mean, I think eventually the Dodgers are going to be like, look, you either pick one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at the end of the day, he needs to stick with hitting and throw the pitching away. Because yes, he's a good pitcher. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, I saw pitchers that you'll have Jason Marquis was a good hitter. Remember Jason Marquis?
Right.
He was a good hitter. He really was. Adam Wainwright wasn't horrible, though, was he?
No.
Chris Carpenter was not a good hitter, best I remember. But that's kind of a unique thing too.
Mm-hmm.
How many's he got right now?
Let's see here. Right now, he's got 23 home runs.
So that would be on pace right now for 60.
Right.
I don't think that will happen, but
no, he had 54 last year. He was 50-50 last year.
Is that a record for a pitcher?
Yes. And technically, last year he was technically a DH because he didn't pitch any. He hasn't pitched since, I believe. Let's see, when was the last time he pitched?
Can they bat on the same year they've had Tommy John? Are they able to do that, or is it too risky?
So I think he took a few weeks off, but he had his arm like all wrapped up, and he had some like shoulder pad, like elbow pads and some arm pads on there, protecting it.
in the always before, and correct me if I'm wrong, if a pitcher for an entire season hit 20 home runs, that was good.
But he's not your prototypical just pitcher. I mean, he is the ultimate two-way player.
Right.
I mean, he's been in the league since 2018.
So the best in the league right now is a two-way.
Right. And they even named a rule after him where if you're a two-way player, pitcher and hitter, after you pitched, you can stay in the game and DH.
Okay. Oh, I like that. That's cool.
The Ohtani rule.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of the old school that, and no, it's not like it anymore, that I think that, if you play baseball, you swing the bat, and if you're pitching, you swing the bat. I know.
See, I don't like it. I don't like my pitchers to run the bases. I don't want my pitcher to bat.
I was always a big Mike Shannon fan, and I always liked Mike Shannon. What he always said: baseball players bat.
That's just the old National League way, and I mean,
I thought that would end up winning over the American League. I thought that the DH would go away at one time. I think it was close at one time, but then the DH took over.
Right. COVID definitely helped the DH.
Yeah.
And I think we had, I believe it was 1 year back without the DH in 21, and then they brought the DH full swing back in 22.
So you have to designate each game, your DH for your game, right, when you start?
Right.
Okay.
Like when you make your lineup, you'll put somebody in as DH.
That's what Albert was doing his last year, wasn't it?
Yes.
He could have still probably played another year DHing.
Probably.
But anyway, we got one more.
Juice Baseballs wasn't helping, or wasn't hurting him anyway.
The last question here is, who will be the first seller? I guess we kind of talked about the Diamondbacks a little bit there that possibly sell. But anyway, again, who does everybody think will be the first seller? What do you think, Reid?
I think the first seller, probably if they have anybody to sell, will be Colorado.
I was going to say, do they have anybody to sell? I mean, I know that's cruel,
right?
And I don't. The fans out there, like I said, I truly feel bad for the fans out there.
No, but in all seriousness, I think the first true seller will be the Baltimore Orioles.
Really? And you thought the Orioles would be a decent team, didn't you?
I thought that they have totally collapsed. That is a prime example of total collapse. We'll move right into the standings, but that's total collapse. I don't think the Pirates will sell. I think they'll trade a couple of relievers. I think the Cardinals will buy. I think the Phillies will buy. I think the Nationals will attempt to buy. I think the Braves will probably sell. Unless they can get their act and ready to go with this in this month. But if they're still below 500 the 1st of July, you get ready for an Atlanta sell-off.
Mm-hmm. Before you go into the standings, I want to ask a question for the Cardinal fans, okay?
Okay.
If the Cardinals stay on a good run, and at least, go to the playoffs and get some depth in the playoffs. I'm not saying they're going to win it all, but if they can get past the series, does John Mozeliak go out? Does it help his legacy any?
No.
You think his legacy's tarnished no matter what? What would help his legacy? Would a World Series win fix his legacy with what he's got? I know they're probably not going to do that. But just say, for example, they went on and won the World Series. Would that leave his legacy in much? It would help it, I'm sure.
That would help his legacy, but his legacy, to me, and for a lot of true Cardinal fans, and not your just average fan that go out and, oh, that's my favorite The true Cardinal fans that that understands the business and understands how everything works. His image and his legacy is already tarnished and gone.
A playoff berth wouldn't help him much.
Absolutely not.
But a World Series win could make a difference.
Okay, so think of it like this. You have a piece of moldy bread.
Mm-hmm.
You cut off the mold. You still have a piece of moldy bread.
Right. That's true.
I mean, it's still gonna be there, but I mean, at the end of the day, he's still gonna have his terrible signing in Mike Matheny, who I never thought who should ever be a manager. I did not agree with them signing him in 2012. I did not agree with the Royals signing him a couple of years ago.
He never did do much for the Royals either.
No. And when he fired Mike Schilt, I did not agree with him firing Mike Schilt.
I think he took some hit on that too, didn't he, for firing Schilt? A lot of people really like Schilt.
And there was even talk that he could fire Oliver Marmol.
Really? Well,
it didn't go anywhere, but
I will say this: there was a time, Reid, that John Mozeliak was probably in top 5 GMs, is regarded as one of the top 5 best GMs in the league.
What, in his first 4 years when Tony La Russa was managing?
When Tony was there, I think that Tony La Russa made John Mozeliak look very good.
Of course. You know as well as I do. I mean, look at the New England Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
New England Patriots, Bob Kraft would not have a prestigious football team without Bill Belichick.
Exactly. He wouldn't be where he's at. Bill Belichick has made him a lot of money just for the fact of how much more that franchise is worth because of all the 6 Super Bowl wins.
Absolutely.
But anyway, before we totally leave MLB, you want to go over the standings, and then we'll move on into the National
I'll go over the standings really quick. So in the American League, the American League East, we have the New York Yankees at 36-22. The second place, which is kind of surprising in some ways, but after the collapse of the Red Sox. The Toronto Blue Jays are 31-28. The Tampa Bay Rays are 30-29. If I could say it right and get the right line. And Boston Red Sox are 29-33. And in last place is the Baltimore Orioles with their manager being fired a couple of weeks ago. 22-36, 14 games back behind first place. I believe, in all seriousness, that will be the first team to start selling in July. Moving on to the Central, the best record in baseball at 40-21 is the Detroit Tigers. In second place is the Cleveland Guardians at 32-26. Third place is 32-27. And fourth place is 31-29, the Kansas City Royals. And in last place is the Chicago White Sox at 18-24. We forget how close that Central Division really is.
Yeah, I just started there thinking about that when you were saying that. It is pretty.
It truly is. I mean,
we got some pretty competitive baseball this year.
We really do. I mean, for just, God forbid this happens, Detroit go on a, 4 or 5 game losing streak. Cleveland or Minnesota could win 4 or 5 straight, be right back up there with them.
What's Detroit's record again?
40-21, the best record in baseball.
Hey, I want to congratulate Hinch.
Absolutely.
For the job he's doing.
Absolutely.
He's done a spectacular job in Houston. He brought their first World Series victory to that franchise. and he's done a spectacular job in Detroit. So, I mean, my congratulations to him.
Absolutely, I'm a huge AJ Hinch
I am
fan.
too.
I respect everything about him.
As far as
Definitely
I'm concerned,
respect
he's one of
that.
the best managers in the league.
Oh, absolutely. So moving on to the West, pretty competitive. 2 to 3 teams here. Potentially could be all 5 teams could be in play if you really think about it. Seattle is on top at 32-26. And in second place, only by a half a game at 32-27, is Houston Astros. And in third place at 29-31 is the Texas Rangers. And in fourth place is the Los Angeles Angels at 27-32. And in last place is just the Athletics at 23-38. Real quick, moving on to the East, the National League East. The New York Mets are 38-22. The Philadelphia Phillies are 36-23. The Washington Nationals are 28-31. The Atlanta Braves are 27-31. And the Miami Marlins are 23-35. Moving on to the Central. The Central is an intriguing division. In first place, the Chicago Cubs at 37-22. St. Louis Cardinals at 33-26. Milwaukee Brewers at 33-28. Cincinnati Reds at 29-32. And Pittsburgh Pirates at 22-38. Then the National League West, who is a very intriguing division. Some very good teams and a very bad team. The Los Angeles Dodgers at 36-24. The San Diego Padres is in second place at 34-24. The San Francisco Giants at 33-27. The Arizona Diamondbacks at 28-31. And in last place at 10 wins and 50 losses is the Colorado Rockies.
How many wins they got? 9?
They made it to 10.
They made it to 10.
So currently, the wild card would be. So we have here. So in the American League would be Cleveland, Houston, and Minnesota. And in the National League would be the Padres, the Cardinals, yes. Now, where's the other one? I'm only seeing 3 here. Where's the other one? Okay, so this is it. Oh, okay, so yeah, Phillies. Phillies is the other one. So Phillies would be the one. Then the Padres, and then the Cardinals. So the Giants are just slow a little bit out with the Cardinals at the season we're ended today. The wild card series right now would be the Dodgers and Cardinals, and the Phillies and Padres versus the Astros and I want to say Indians, but they're not the Indians anymore. Guardians and the Mariners and the Rays actually would be in that. Is it kind of interesting? Kind of interesting there. So that's your playoff picture here. So that's that. So moving on.
Hey, before we're done. We're going to the NFL, right?
Yes.
I want to read something that just kind of popped up here. WWE news. Found this a little interesting. This just came up. Some talks about the Miz here. It says the Miz. His recent actions on social media have sparked some rumors about his future with the WWE, including the possibility of a release or departure. The Miz has removed all references to WWE from his X, formerly Twitter, bio and unfollowed the official WWE account, leading to speculation about his status.
Now I heard the same thing about Gunther.
That's
That is weird.
I wouldn't be overly surprised on the Miz. I would be shocked on the Gunther. I can't imagine that with that. If you let Gunther get away, that was just like almost saying, I don't know. I can't imagine that.
I mean, that.
Gunther is over so much right now.
I agree. I don't know what they're thinking, and how WWE is. We'll never actually get any clarity on any of the releases and everything. But
all right, well, moving on to the NFL, I do want to, Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts, passed away. Jim had somewhat of a troubled life, but he inherited the team from his father. And Jim, I think, did a good job with the team, really. I know Jim had some substance abuse issues through the years, but he was in charge when the best run that team ever went on, at least in modern history, with under Peyton and Tony Dungy. I think he's somebody that the league, overall is probably going to miss quite a bit. But anyway, his family, just, want to keep them in our prayers, and because Jim was only 65 years old too.
So, who is that team left to?
I believe I'm not mistaken. I think Jim just has a daughter or daughters. I don't think he has a son. I would assume it's his daughter, but I could be wrong about that. That'd be something we probably need to research a little. But I think he has a daughter. And I was thinking at one time that he was trying to get her a little bit involved with the team. But a lot of people kind of was hard on Jim, but I think Jim did he loved the team, he loved the game. And
so he's got three kids, and it looks like, and they were left to the three daughters.
Okay, they're all girls, all right. He has no sons.
Has no sons, so I don't know what they're going on here, but it does say Jim Irsay. It does have three daughters. His youngest daughter has a bachelor's degree in sports management and marketing. So I mean, she works for the Colts.
So I'm sure that they'll be the ones that run the team.
So I mean,
they'll probably split up the the duties.
Right. So that was the youngest daughter. The oldest is she worked for the Colts, and then it doesn't say anything else. But about the eldest, what about the middle daughter here? Don't say anything else other than she's worked as an event coordinator with the NFL.
So they're all kind of involved with the league.
It sounds like they're definitely involved. It sounds like it's going to be a three-headed monster.
I've always kind of wondered, and maybe he's not interested in it. I've always kind of surprised that they haven't got Tony Dungy involved with The Office.
I think he's making quite a bit of money doing what he's doing on Sunday nights.
I'm sure he would take a pay cut. He'd have to take a pay cut to do that. Because those guys get in behind the microphone, and their money, well, you see what Tom's making.
Right.
So it's pretty big. But anyway, again, I just want to say, I want to remember that family. And moving on, do you have anything else to say about the Colts? Are you ready?
No, just, keeping that family in my prayers,
yeah.
And, wishing them the best. Hope they go 0-17 next year.
Okay, the Saints have officially placed Derek Carr on reserve/retired list.
So is he done?
I think he probably is. I hate to say it, I think he probably needs to be. I think he's pretty well done all he's going to do, I think. And that's just my opinion. Former Vikings defensive end Jim Marshall passed away at 87. Did you know that I can remember him? He was one of the was one of the group that was deemed as the Purple People Eaters.
Y'all are about the same age. So.
That's really funny. But no, he was on the group that was deemed of the Purple People Eaters during that time, the defense.
Purple People Eaters.
They were a defense in out of this world. Well, they went to the Super Bowl 4 times in the 70s and didn't win any, but they went 4 times, and it was a lot. You know, Fran Tarkenton was a quarterback, and he was a good quarterback, but that defense was really getting them there.
You know, I didn't know that was a thing. Purple People Leaders were a fearsome defensive line for the Minnesota Vikings, primarily known for their dominance from 1968 to 1977. The team included Hall of Famers Alan Page, Carl Eller, along with Jim Marshall and Gary Larson.
Yes, it was remarkable. And that was just I kind of got in on the NFL at the tail end of the Purple People Eaters, but they were very well known, and they were, to be honest with you, probably one of the top 5 defenses ever in the league. I mean, they were amazing. And Bud Grant was the head coach. I remember too much. He was the head coach. But they never won a Super Bowl, and they deserved to win one, I thought, but they just never got there. But anyway, you know, sad day that Marshall passed away, and you know, want to remember his family too. I don't want to make this podcast too dark with all the deaths, but I think we need to remember those guys.
Right. In other good news, Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin not on the hot seat, the longest tenured active head coach. Mike Tomlin continues to move closer towards Chuck Noll's duration and total number in Pittsburgh. 4-time Super Bowl winner, logged 23 seasons. Tomlin is now in year 19. He received another extension, a 3-year deal in last June. I mean, did we really even suspect that he was on the hot seat?
A lot of speculation. Some people thinks that he is, but it's been talked about some, you know.
I mean,
I heard a popular guy that I'm not going to mention his name on here, that's a broadcaster, because I don't want to mention his name because I'm afraid I didn't get everything right he said. But he made a statement here a while back. How can he not be?
He's not. He's not. Okay, in his 19 years, he's never had a season under 500. How can he be? Well, I would not fire that dude.
I wouldn't either. I like Mike Tomlin is a good man, and he maintains a stable organization. But right now, the Steelers are probably.
I tell you what, right now. Okay, not to cut you off. I'm sorry, but if I was a owner, NFL owner, and I was a bajillionaire and I could afford it, I would go to Mike Tomlin and be like, "How much would it take to get you out of that contract and get you to coach my team?"
Right.
Because he is one hell of a head coach, and I would love to have him to be the head coach of my team.
And he's a respectful guy. He's very well respected through the league. And no, Mike Tomlin's great, you know. And here's the thing: you've got to give credit to the Rooney family. They recognize that.
Absolutely,
they recognize that. You know, why else would last a year ago they give him a 3-year extension?
Right. No, you know, and I also have a lot of respect for that family because, you know, in your lifetime they've only had 3 coaches.
They've had Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin in my lifetime of being involved in football. You know, I think they've only had 4 in their history too, or maybe Bud Grant, or maybe Chuck Noll was the first one. I'm not sure. I can't remember how many they've had, but it's not too many. And what do they got? 5 Super Bowls?
6.
6 Super Bowls?
6 Super Bowls.
So what about teams that has fired constantly? How many do they have? You know, it's a thing.
Right. So right now it's labeled as 16 head coaches, but this is going back to 1933.
Okay, yeah. The Dallas Cowboys was the one I was confused with. Tom Landry was, I think, only the second coach they ever had.
So, in your lifetime, you were born in 1966.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to put that out there like
Make
that.
it sound so long ago.
So anyway, in your lifetime, here are the coaches: Bill Austin, Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin.
Right.
So 4.
What was Cowher there? 14 years?
1992 to 2006.
I got it right. 14 years, wasn't it?
Yes.
And Noll was there 23 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, they said Tomlin's on his 19th season. Or is he getting ready to start his 19th season, I guess, isn't it?
2007. So.
And Belichick did 24, right? He had 24 seasons with the Patriots.
Yes.
So, and Belichick was your longest tenured coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess Mike took that over then, didn't he, when they relieved Belichick? Mike Tomlin would have obviously took that over. He would have become the longest tenured coach.
Right.
And, we don't get, this is a different subject for another time, but I'm trying to think who would be number 3. Probably, what's his name? Baltimore.
Yes.
He would be number 3, I guess. I heard something interesting the other day from K-Fan.
All right, so here are the longest tenured head coaches. We'll go through we don't have to go through all of them. We'll go through.
Give us the top 5.
We'll go through the top 5. Mike Tomlin is obviously number 1. He has 18 years under his belt. Number 2 is John Harbaugh at 17. Andy Reid is number 3. He has 12. Sean McDermott has 8. And then Sean McVay has 8.
I didn't realize that McDermott had that much time on already.
And tied with those 2 is Kyle Shanahan.
Well, I think a coach can be there too long. I think that sometimes they can lose the team. Again, I've said this before. If I owned the Patriots, I would have gave Belichick another year after everything he'd done for that team. And I really respect the Rooney family for staying with Tomlin. They know that. That's the thing about it. Other people has been critical of him, but you got to give the Rooney family credit because they know they got a good coach. But anyway, moving on here, there was some talk that maybe that the Patriots would not stay with Diggs, Stephon Diggs. Now they're saying that the Patriots have no plans to cut Stephon Diggs. So Stephon Diggs' absence for the first week of the Patriots' voluntary OTAs didn't raise any eyebrows. However, the wide receiver quickly commanded attention when a video showed him flashing an unidentified pink substance while partying on a boat. New head coach Mike Vrabel quickly cited making great decisions, and there was later speculation the Patriots could consider ending the partnership before it truly begins. But I'm not sure what the pink substance was. I don't know what it was.
I don't know either. I mean, I think, him not showing up was, going back to the, the veteran player,
It's voluntary. It was voluntary.
Right.
But Brett Favre didn't show up all the time.
Well, you know about Brett Favre.
You got to give this a quick mention. I'm sorry if I'm going too long, but I would really love to hear. I mean, anybody wants to comment on us or send us an email what they thought about the Brett Favre documentary. I would really love. I'd love to hear your comments. Anybody wants to shoot us an email or anything, just tell us what you think. We'll even bring it up here on the podcast next week if you do. But I would like to know what everybody thinks about it. I think that hurt his legacy.
Absolutely. I definitely think it did hurt his legacy. I thought it was a well-produced documentary. I kind of feel sorry for Jen Sturger, what she went through. I think we've seen a lot of that go on in our world. Going back to your hero, Vince McMahon. Um,
I will say this: I do feel sorry for Brett Favre's wife.
yes. Um, and I think a lot of, you know, how do I say this without being insensitive? You see a good looking girl and she says stuff like that, then everybody thinks that she's just trying to get a check.
Mm-hmm.
That's not always the case.
No, and I do not think that in this. I think this hurt her.
Absolutely.
I think this hurt her just because it was Brett Favre.
Yeah, right.
If it had been somebody else, it might have. But I think this hurt her. Probably almost fixed her career in sports, or at least NFL.
I think so.
And
I think it definitely
sad.
did.
And that's sad. She didn't deserve that.
It is sad. I mean, I definitely agree with that. She didn't deserve that.
No, she did not deserve that. So, only thing I can say, Brett Favre contributed big time to the sport. But the other thing I will say to Brett Favre is shame on Brett Favre.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody's got to answer for that someday. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see how see how that all turns out.
You want to give us? Let's talk a little bit before we wrap up here. A little bit about the UFL. You're going to give us some. I think you ought to give us also their record where they're at, and then talk a little bit about the playoffs and stuff.
So the playoffs will start on the 8th, which is Sunday. The first round of the playoffs is the the Michigan Panthers at Birmingham Stallions. And that will kick off at 2 p.m. Central. And the DC Defenders at St. Louis Battlehawks will kick off at 5 p.m. Central. The end of the year standings is like this. The St. Louis Battlehawks win the XFL conference at 8-2. The DC Defenders get second place at 6-4. The Arlington Renegades get third place at 5-5, and the San Antonio Brahmas end the year at 1-9. The USFL conference, the champions is the Birmingham Stallions at 7-3, and the second place is the Michigan Panthers at 6-4. And in third place is the Houston Roughnecks at 5-5, and finishing in last place is the Memphis Showboats at 2-8. So after we have this weekend of the playoff action, we will go directly into a championship, and the championship will be the 14th at the Dome at America Center in St. Louis at 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time.
I would like to watch that.
I would too.
I'd like to be at that game.
I would too.
But I'm excited for them. I'm excited for the fans in St. Louis. I'm excited for them. I think the one thing, and I won't slow us down, I just want to say this. I think that the fans of St. Louis, I give more credit to them than I do the team almost. They've shown the country that they can support a football team.
That's not bad. Nosebleeds are only $30 some.
Well, that's not bad at all. Not bad at all.
Where we were,
I didn't think they'd be terribly high. UFL can't charge NFL prices, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
But you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I commend the team a lot.
Right.
But I think the big winners of this is the fans, the St. Louis fans.
Yes.
They've proved to the country they proved to the NFL even that they can support a football team. If you can get 30,000 fans in there for a spinoff league, new league that I do like, I'm not down on it, but if you can put 30,000 fans in there for a UFL team, you can sell out for an NFL team.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think, even though the Battlehawks are a great team, and I'm behind them all the way, I still think the big winners is the St. Louis fans.
100%. No, I agree with that.
Anyway, you have some more stuff you wanted to discuss a little bit about the UFL, or
no? That's it. That's all I wanted to do.
Do give a little bit of a mention that next year, I think it's next year, they're looking at expansion. Is it next year or the year after?
I think it's potentially. I think it's the year after.
I think this league has got a good chance of making it.
I think so too.
And in my lifetime, I've never saw one. Well, Arena was around for a little while, but I've never really saw a league that really. I think that if anybody's ever, I think this one's got the best chance of any other that I've in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got to commend The Rock and some others for doing it. So, but I'm excited about the UFL.
I am too. We went to a game earlier in the year, and I truly had fun.
Oh, the game! I thought the quality of the game was really good, and like I said, I really have a lot of regard right now for the St. Louis fans. They've proved. Like I said, I think they're the big winners.
Absolutely.
But anyway, I think that next year. We'll be talking about it on the podcast, but I think next year that we'll probably be involved maybe in a couple games up there.
That's the plan. I'm really looking forward to that.
I kind of wish next year that we could kind of, I don't know if nothing else, do about 15 minutes of a podcast up there.
Right.
Outside somewhere there. I think it'd be kind of interesting.
Oh, I think it would be.
And I think we could definitely do that. But anyway. I know we got long-winded today, but there were some things that needed to be discussed. A lot of WWE stuff, and I think right now there's a lot of action going on in MLB.
It is in
NFL
full
news,
swing.
NFL news is quiet right now.
Mm-hmm.
UFL's got some stuff going on, but I think the MLB is where a lot of MLB and WWE both has got a lot of things going on.
Yes,
and it's a very unique MLB season.
Extremely unique.
And one thing, and I'll hush after this, but we started off this MLB season. Injuries was kind of dominating for a little while, wasn't they? I mean, injuries was really. I mean, we was plagued with them at first, wasn't we?
Yes.
But
yes, it seemed like there was a lot of injuries. I mean, it seems like they've kind of settled down a little bit. But that does come and go, so we'll see how it goes moving forward.
But if anybody, again, I'll say this, wants to, I would love to hear from you. If you want to send us an email, and we'll talk about it here on the podcast about your thoughts, your opinions, if you liked it, if you didn't like it, or whatever the Brett Favre documentary. Just love to hear what you have to say about it. So.
Absolutely.
And feel free to email. You want to give that email address?
Yes, the email address I have that you can email us anytime is backyardsportstalk25@gmail.com. All lowercase. Again, it is backyardsportstalk25@gmail.com. It will be in the bottom of the show notes, and it is in our socials as well. Thank you for listening this week, and everybody have a good week.
All right. Well, also same thing. Everybody have a good week. And again, if you can send us an email, and we'll, as long as you're okay with it, we'll definitely talk about that. So I'll say, everybody, good night, God bless, and we'll talk to you next week.